We got exclusives. That's all we do here is exclusives. First Bank CEO Dr. Adesola Adedutan has emphasized that there is no better time than now for foreign investors to get into Nigeria, citing President Bola Tinubu's commitment to creating a favorable environment for economic growth. Dr. Adedutan's comments follow the Nigeria Investor Luncheon, co-organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and First Bank. Here it is.
Time. Now, the Nigerian luncheon to woo investors garnered significant attention. Could you tell us about the event's purpose and the outcomes you aimed to achieve?
Okay, thank you. The event, in our view, is one of the strategic sideline events that the Nigerian government put up as an integral part of our engagement with the international community for this year's edition of the United Nations General Assembly. As you are aware, we do have a new president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, and he has embarked on what he has rightfully described as economic diplomacy, essentially trying to woo investors into our country so that we have foreign direct investment that can then help us to accelerate growth. You will recall that the president had mentioned as part of his 8-point agenda that GDP, significant or quantum growth in GDP growth rate is one of his administration's objective. So this is our own contribution, working with like-minded entities like Bank of America to put together Nigerians, investors, Nigerians in diaspora to brainstorm with the president in terms of what are those critical policy changes that the government will need to enact to ensure that Nigeria becomes the preferred destination for foreign direct investment. And like you mentioned, the turnout today was extremely good. The contributions were quite solid, and I believe we all left today's session feeling very positive and very optimistic about the inflow of foreign direct investment to our country.
How do you see the role of banking? I mean, you've mentioned First Bank in particular, but I was wondering if you could, just elaborate more on that. How do you see the role of banking sector in facilitating these investments and economic development in the country?
What we explained, and again, as CEO of First Bank, an institution that has been in existence for 130 years, there is no other entity that is well placed to speak about investment in Nigeria, investment on the continent better than the First Bank. So we basically showcase to the people who attended today's event the investment opportunities in Nigeria, how to navigate all the hurdles that they may come across, but more importantly, the kind of rewards that await people who are able to invest in Nigeria. We cited several examples of foreign investors in our country who broke even way ahead of their protected break-even period. So, and for us, that was quite significant. We also highlighted the fact that with a huge domestic market in excess of 200 million, with Nigeria being the anchor economy in the West and Central African region, you can't get it wrong with Nigeria. When you now layer this huge opportunity on the back of the fact that we have now created a single African market on the back of the African and Continental Free Trade Zone. So a big investor in Nigeria essentially gains not just access to the Nigerian market, but to the entire African market. When you also look at the projections, in another 10 years or so, the population of Africa is expected to be bigger. Africa in terms of population is expected to be bigger than China. So just imagine a market that is bigger than China in another couple of years. That is the market that we showcase essentially today to foreign investors. And I believe we've successfully convinced them that coming to Nigeria is aching to come into Africa. The opportunities are huge, they are quite significant. But most importantly, they're also coming at a time when our president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, is focused on creating an enabling environment that allows foreign direct investors to come into our country to foster economic growth and development. The president has been very emphatic. His agenda is about inclusive growth, which is quite significant. So I think the time is right. Anybody that finds its way into our country at this particular point in time, in another 5 years, the person will be smiling to the bank.
What specific initiatives or incentives did you present to potential investors during the luncheon?
The banking sector in general, and First Bank in particular, our role is to showcase what is possible, what is available, but most importantly, once those transactions and those investments begin to take shape, is for us to come in as provider of debt to those transactions. Part of what we took away from today's session is the need for the government to say these are the top 5 or top 10 big projects that we like to finance. So, for example, the Brass LNG has been on the drawing board for more than 10 years. So do you want to put this on the table? That potential is an investment in excess of in billions of dollars. We have a number of moribund steel industry. Ajakuta has been there. The Delta Sea company has been there. Time to revisit them and reactivate those. Again, significant investment. And these are investments that will spur further investment and they will spur significant growth. The president has been speaking about building infrastructure. You cannot build infrastructure without steel, for example. You cannot build infrastructure without cement. So if there's any takeaway today is for the government to define a couple of top priority areas or projects where they would like investment to come in. And if you can just get 2-3 serious investors into Nigeria, imagine a world in which you have the like of Rio, I'm just making it up, the big mining company coming to do mining in Nigeria. It changes the narratives immediately. So on and so forth. So on the back of the recent visit of the president to there, Indorama, who currently have a petrochemical plant in Port Harcourt, have said they're going to invest additional 8 billion. So those are serious investors. Just all that is required is get about 10 of such people. Imagine 8 serious players saying we'll put an average of $8 billion into this economy in the next 5 years. You're talking of potential investment of $8 billion. So therein lies our opportunity to unlock value, push significant economic growth, inclusive growth, to use the word of our president, and then we begin to address poverty. As banks, we do have the balance sheet to support these big ticket transactions. We also have the Nigerian banking sector has also matured significantly. We also do have structuring capabilities that allows us to lead the fundraising effort for this kind of transaction, and it's definitely spur growth. I'm particularly excited about what the future holds for our country. I'm very optimistic that with the kind of leadership that the president is providing, especially in the area of economy, the future is very bright.
All right, that's our ICE correspondent, Adesola Adedutan, boots on the ground in New York City on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, speaking to the First Bank in DC.